Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Again, good day. This is the program Front and Center, brought to you by Radio Pilipinas World Service, the English broadcast station of Radio Pilipinas, one of the stations under the Presidential Broadcast Service Bureau of Broadcast Services. And good day to all our listeners of Radio Pilipinas World Service English broadcast. After 2 to 3 months of absence, the program Front and Center is back. Yes, we are back. We are back to deliver to you, our Filipino diaspora, our OFWs and foreign listeners, information and developments here in the Philippines, together with our resource persons who will shed light and impart their views, insights, and perspectives on issues that we will be discussing. I am your host, Rey Sampang. For our comeback episode today, we are focusing on the possible implications of the ongoing tensions between Taiwan and China and how it can affect the Philippines being in close proximity to the Taiwan Strait. Recent developments show that in China's goal of reunification with Taiwan, it may need to invade the latter, and by doing so, many scenarios has played out by international security and defense analysts. Among these scenarios is a naval blockade on the Taiwan Strait. By doing so, we would like to know, and we will discuss with our expert today on how will this affect the Philippines in case China decides to go on this path, and how can the Philippines prepare for such a scenario, and can the Philippine military provide security, especially if we're talking about our northern provinces, particularly the Batanes group of islands. To help us answer these questions and to help us guide and have a more perspective, deeper perspective on the issues going to be discussed, we have on the line our foreign and security analyst, Professor Lucio Pitlo III. Professor Pitlo, good day and welcome back to the program or program Front and Center.
Good day, Mr. Rey Sampang, and good day to all the listeners of your program.
It's indeed a pleasure to have you again, Professor Pitlo, here on Front and Center. And I'm very, very glad and happy that you have accepted our invitation to discuss this matter with our listeners. First of all, Professor Pitlo, may I ask this question? Uh, what is the current situation, if you may know, or if you know, what is the current situation, but in terms of the security aspect between China and Taiwan?
The tension across the strait is a long-standing issue between Beijing and Taipei. But in recent years, we know that the tensions are increasing. There are attempts to uh, impose the laws of China, PRC, in the Taiwan Strait, the
Mhm.
strategic waterway that divides mainland China and Taiwan. Uh, in some incidents in the offshore islands of Taiwan, like in Pratas, the China Coast Guard came within a very close proximity of these islands that are controlled by ROC. And during inclement weather across the Taiwan Strait and in some nearby waters also, PRC also attempted to restrict navigation, uh, encourage some ships to pass by designated areas that PRC designated. And so this alarmed ROC, Taipei, and they had
Mm.
protested these moves.
Yes. Okay. Now, Professor Pitlo, there are a lot of scenarios being played out on social media and even on mainstream media by foreign and security analysts like you. If ever China decides or pushes through with its intention of reunification with Taiwan, okay, and there are a lot of scenarios, there are a lot of possibilities on how China will do this militarily, basically invading Taiwan. Okay, but what can the Philippines expect when China's military imposes a military blockade or naval blockade on the Taiwan Strait? Because the naval blockade is one of the options that China can do to subdue Taiwan and make it make the reunification possible.
Yeah, certainly there are options in PRC's table, and one of them is the naval blockade. We have already seen in recent years that China is becoming bolder in terms of undertaking exercises around the island of Taiwan. And so these are both air exercises as well as sea exercises, including lots of aircraft and ships, even parking an aircraft carrier in waters east of Taiwan. So I think the scenario of a blockade is very possible. So an invasion may be also in that option. It may be the highest. The blockade, the naval quarantine, the interdiction, the gray zone. These are in the spectrum of things that PRC is undertaking or may undertake
Mhm.
in the future. So, in a naval blockade scenario, such a hypothetical scenario, I think for countries like the Philippines, we have to ask two important questions.
Mhm.
One is how this blockade will affect neutral ship or navigational rights and access of countries that are not parties to the conflict.
Mhm.
How will
Mhm.
this blockade by PRC or Beijing affect those navigational rights? Secondly, is how will such military blockade affect a possible evacuation of Filipino or other foreign nationals from Taiwan if the conflict became imminent or if the conflict breaks out?
Mhm.
I think those are the two critical questions that we have to consider in the scenario of PRC imposing a naval blockade around Taiwan.
Okay, are we talking about freedom of navigation here, Professor Pitlo?
Correct. So freedom of navigation and overflight of countries that are not parties to the conflict.
Yes, yes. We can compare that to what is happening right now in the Strait of Hormuz and even in the Red Sea. Am I right, Professor Pitlo?
Correct. So there's conflict between U.S. and Iran that affected third countries. Now,
Yes.
these countries are not parties to the conflict, but their shipping is affected. Their normal access in the Strait of Hormuz is affected. They are unable to pass through, and
Mm.
so this affected global oil and gas supply. That affected countries like the Philippines.
Mhm. But for Taiwan, I think the important thing here is the semiconductors and technology that the world needs from Taiwan that will be restricted from flowing out in case a naval blockade by China is imposed.
Agree. I think because of Taiwan's position as a major producer, especially of advanced microchips and semiconductors, this would affect the global supply of these technology goods. And so I think this is the reason why many countries are hoping that the conflict will be prevented and
Yes.
that they're looking at closely observing developments in this cross-strait flashpoint.
All right. When when talking about China's possible, we're not saying that it's going to happen, but if it's possible that China imposes a naval blockade on the Taiwan Strait, how will that affect uh, Philippine sovereign waters, Philippine territories, because we have a very close proximity with Taiwan, Professor Pitlo.
Yeah, agree. So the geographic proximity plus the presence of our very significant community in Taiwan, close to 200,000 Filipinos living and working in the island, they may have to be evacuated in case of an imminent conflict or hostilities break out. And then secondly, of course, we trade a lot with countries to the north of Taiwan. I mean, including Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
So we trade with Taiwan, with mainland China. We trade with South Korea, with Japan. So in the event of a blockade or conflict across the Taiwan Strait, shipping across the Taiwan Strait may be affected. So that means our trade with our markets
Mm.
like China, South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan would be affected also. So those are matters that we really have to consider in light of this evolving situation.
As a Filipino foreign security analyst, Professor Pitlo, does the military or the Philippine military, in your opinion, has enough assets to protect the northern islands, such as the Batanes group of islands?
Well, traditionally, we have weak posture in that area. But in the recent years, we know that we are taking steps to address that deficit. We have reinforced and built new military structures in that theater. We have also built up EDCA sites,
Mm-hmm.
3 sites in that area. We undertook joint military exercises with allies and partners in that area. And so I think these are preparations that may be helpful, hopefully to discourage any change in the status quo using force or coercion or
Mm-hmm.
intimidation, and at the same time be ready for our mission, which is first and foremost to safely evacuate our people
Mm-hmm.
from Taiwan, and then secondly, render humanitarian assistance to other nationals who may flee Taiwan because of the conflict.
All right. You mentioned EDCA sites. How can the EDCA sites assist or help the Philippines if this situation plays out, Professor Pitlo?
Well, it has been said that EDCA sites were for humanitarian assistance and disaster response. And so a Taiwan contingency where Filipino, other ASEAN nationals, other foreign nationals may have to be repatriated back to their home countries.
Mm-hmm.
It is a major HADR phenomenon where EDCA sites might be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So by mobilizing air and sea assets from these areas or other Philippine sites in close proximity to Taiwan, mobilize them to get the people out of Taiwan, non-combatants especially, and then bring them to safety. So whether we have enough assets, I think that is a question of logistics.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 200,000 moving 200,000 people is not an easy task to do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to work with the weather, rough waters in the Luzon Strait, and also, of course, if hostilities break out, will it be easy for us to move people? Yeah, I mean
Mm-hmm.
that huge number of we're talking of 200,000 for Filipinas alone.
Yes.
There are about close to a million ASEAN nationals in Taiwan. And so moving such big number of people across, a perilous Luzon Strait,
Mm-hmm.
especially when bad weather set in. So it's a logistical challenge, and it's something that may require
Mm-hmm.
the support of all available military and civilian assets that can be put into use for that big operation.
All right. But in case China imposes a naval blockade and the Philippines, the Philippine military sends its, let's say, naval ships or military aircrafts to evacuate overseas Filipino workers and other, foreign nationals who may become trapped in case China pushes with its plan, will it be assigned to China that the Philippines is meddling uh, with the reunification and maybe can catch the ire of the Chinese government by doing so?
I don't think so. I think it is the obligation and the responsibility of all countries to evacuate their people
Mm-hmm.
from a potential or a conflict zone. And we have seen this in Iraq before the U.S. operations. We have seen this in Libya. I think it's normal that evacuation flights, yeah, or sea operations in order to extricate people in potential conflict zones. This is a major responsibility of countries concerned. And the Philippines, being the closest country south of Taiwan, is in a position to help not only Filipinos, its nationals, but also its fellow ASEAN nationals,
Mm-hmm.
ASEAN countries that may need to have like a temporary stop, you know,
Mm-hmm.
uh, get their nationals in Batanes or in northern Luzon, and from there pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think China will see that as interfering for or against any party in the conflict.
Yes, okay. Now, what when we talk about Taiwan, when we talk about the Philippines for this matter, and even the First Island chain, uh, we cannot separate the U.S. from this discussion. So, what do you think will be the action of the United States in case China decides to, invade Taiwan for the purpose of reunification and imposing a naval blockade?
Well, that's a good question, and it's debatable to what extent U.S. will provide assistance to Taiwan in the event of a conflict. Now we have been hearing mixed messages, from President Trump, especially after his visit to Beijing last time, and I heard President Xi will be coming to Washington soon,
Mm-hmm.
and so whether Taiwan will be up in the agenda and whether there will be some kind of a grand bargain that may be reached by both sides, and how will that affect the preparation of Taiwan. And we all know that there will be elections in 2028,
Mm-hmm.
January in Taipei, May in Manila, and November in Washington. So three areas where the results of the elections may be crucial, in this cross-strait scenario.
Okay. And of course, when we say the United States military, it is also concerning that there are reports that a huge percentage of military personnel, military vessels are being redirected to the Middle East from the East Asian region, particularly the West Philippine Sea. Do you confirm this, Professor Pitlo?
Well, we heard that the THAAD battery deployed initially in South Korea were taken out and redeployed to the Middle East. We also know, I think it's quite public knowledge that U.S. is running short in ammunition and interceptor missiles due to the intensifying conflict with Iran. And U.S. bases in the Middle East are already, bombarded, affected by hit by Iranian strikes,
Mm-hmm.
missile and projectiles. And we have also took note of the last aircraft carrier, I think, based in Japan, that were taken out
Mm-hmm.
from Japan and redeployed in the Middle East. And I think that is quite a strong message, and of course it affects the morale, may affect the thinking and the calculus of U.S. allies in the Pacific, not
Mm-hmm.
least Japan, South Korea, even in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the Philippines have been taking some steps
Mm-hmm.
in relation to the unpredictability uh, of potential U.S. retrenchment. We have deepened military security engagement with Japan. We are also expanding our security partners. We
Mm-hmm.
have recently signed visiting forces agreement with New Zealand, France, and Canada, if I'm not mistaken. And then we are also trying to expand our pool of security suppliers, I mean, arms suppliers. So these are steps being taken. but the absence or the withdrawal or retrenchment of US in the Pacific will be a very big variable
Mhm.
that cannot be simply ignored. And this is a matter that would have to be factored by military plans in the region.
And my last question for today, Professor Pitlo, how prepared is the Philippines in terms of, uh, strengthening its military arsenal, its ability to protect its sovereign territory, sovereign waters? Where are we when it comes to the modernization of the Philippine military? And are we in the right direction in taking steps to modernize our armed forces in case situations like in the West Philippine Sea or even here on the Taiwan Strait worsens? Are we ready, or uh, what is your assessment on this?
Yeah, so modernization, whether of our Coast Guard or our military, is a multi-year process. We all know that we began around 94, 95 with the first AFP modernization law. That law has been revised, amended, upgraded, and so it is a almost like a decade long process. And given our fiscal, our budget constraints, sometimes it may be difficult to sell to the public the idea that we have to increase our defense spending when other priorities like education, social services, public infrastructure are they also need uh, significant attention resources from government. So that's why we're trying to work with allies and partners to help us modernize our capabilities. That includes training, but also donations or transfers of decommissioned assets,
Mm-hmm.
like the Abu Kuma class destroyers that Japan will be transferring to the Philippines, some retired U.S. Coast Guard cutters that U.S. had given to the Philippines before. Uh, Korea gave Corvette, decommissioned Corvette, and we are also purchasing big platforms, but they take time to be built,
Mm-hmm.
and our financing authorities, our limited finance, of course, would affect how fast
Mm-hmm.
we want to modernize. And so I think the situation is changing very fast. We all know that defense alone will defense is very important, but we also need to improve our diplomacy. We're trying to demarcate our maritime boundaries in our north with Japan, but
Mm-hmm.
that is complicated because of the unique status of
Mm-hmm.
Taiwan. And Taipei and Manila cannot delimit their maritime boundaries because of Beijing, the
Mm-hmm.
reaction of Beijing. So this is a scenario that we have to consider. And so while we try to modernize our military and our Coast Guard to patrol and secure our vast maritime domain and the airspace above it, we also have to improve and consistently make use of depth diplomacy, improve our diplomatic capacity, whether through working with allies and partners, as well as working with our neighbors in ASEAN and including with our big neighbor and trade partner, China.
With that, Professor Pitlo, our deepest appreciation, deepest gratitude for your time to indulge us in our request, and again joining us here on our program, Front and Center, on the station Radio Pilipinas World Service. Thank you very much, Professor Pitlo. We appreciate your professional insights and views on the matters being discussed.
Thank you so much. Mabuhay po kayo and your program.
You just heard Professor Lucio Pitlo III, the Philippines Foreign and Security Analyst. We have discussed here on the program, Front and Center, the issues concerning China's plans of reunification with Taiwan. Now, what does it have to do with the Philippines? Based on our discussion, or based with my discussion with Professor Pitlo, it has to do a lot with the Philippines, not just Taiwan. Because the Philippines, like Professor Pitlo just said, we have thousands and thousands of Filipino overseas workers, factory workers in Taiwan that would need a large effort of repatriation on the part of the Philippines. Not just Filipino workers in Taiwan, but there are also other foreign nationals living and working in Taiwan that will be needing repatriation. In case that scenario of reunification between of China and Taiwan actually happens, you know, through, of course, military invasion. And this one, we're talking about the naval blockade along the Strait of Hormuz. And like what Professor Pitlo and I are discussing, the proximity of the Philippines is Taiwan very close. If you're going to look at the geography of the Philippine archipelago, the northernmost island of the Philippines, the Batanes group of islands, is just a few kilometers away, few hundreds kilometers away from the nearest Taiwanese island. So uh, the issue of freedom of navigation, freedom of flight, the restriction of the restriction of travel of cargo vessels, uh, crucial to the economy of the world, especially when we talk about semiconductors, microchips, and other technology devices that is needed not only by the Philippines but also the whole world, especially the U.S. They also need those semiconductors and technology devices that Taiwan is known for producing. So there are a lot of things has to be considered on this, especially when naval blockade is done by China in the Strait of Hormuz, just like what is happening now in the Strait of Hormuz, right? The Strait, if China deploys a naval blockade in the Strait of Taiwan, it could be likened to what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz, where the global economy has been affected, where the Philippine economy has been affected, not only here in the Philippines, but you know, almost all countries in the world are affected, but due to the lack of supply of oil. Oil prices are going up, basic commodities are going up, and of course, the threat of loss of life due to the ongoing war between the U.S. and Iran, and the uncertainty of the future when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. And we don't want that to happen in the state of Taiwan as much as possible, because that will be, I think, a, mo- a another burden for the whole world to carry, and we don't need another burden. We can survive. We can already survive on this situation on the Strait of Hormuz. Adding another state of Taiwan, I don't think we can. How the world can handle this, particularly the Philippines. So thank you very much for our resource person for today, Professor Lucio Pitlo III, for gracing our comeback episode. So let me reiterate, the program has been out for about 2 to 3 months. So we have come back, and we will be back every Saturday at 1 p.m. in the afternoon Philippine time for the English service platform. So again, we invite you to listen to our English service programs over Radio Pilipinas World Service. But before we conclude our comeback episode, we would like to invite you to listen also to our shortwave broadcasts through our shortwave frequencies: 15.640 megahertz, 17.750 megahertz, and 21.720 megahertz. You can also listen and watch us to our Facebook broadcast live Using your Facebook browser, just type in Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You can also watch and follow us via YouTube channel. Just access our YouTube channel to your YouTube browser. Just type Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And of course, through your cell phones via PBS eBox Radio Receiver app. Just download the app on your cell phones. And with that, we bring to a close our comeback episode of Front and Center. Again, we will be back on air every Saturday starting today. We thank, of course, I thank our fellow Front and Center team who have assisted us in producing and airing this program. Our Master Control Technician, Mr. Milo Dionela. Our Wirecast Technician, of course, Mr. Hiro Lucero. And, of course, with assistance from Mr. J. Arevalo. And again, I am your host, Rey Sampang. Thank you very much for watching and listening. And we hope to see you soon again next Saturday. Thank you. God bless and mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.